Welcome back to my channel. Lindsey Doe, listen closely. She wrapped her arms around you and told you everything. You just weren't listening. Not with words. Words are too exposed, too permanent, too easy to be held accountable for. She told you with the duration of the embrace, with which part of her body initiated it, with whether she pulled you toward her or simply allowed you to come close, with the quality of the silence she kept while she was still holding on. A hug between two people, but who feel nothing for each other, lasts approximately 2 seconds and involves roughly the same emotional depth as a handshake. What she gave you was not that. And if you walked away from it thinking it was just a friendly goodbye, you walked away from one of the clearest confessions she was capable of making at that point in time. You're fluent in the wrong dialect of human connection. Here's the frustrating truth about where most men find themselves. You understand language. You understand direct communication. You understand when someone says something and you've gotten reasonably good at responding to that. But attraction, particularly female attraction in its early and most honest stages, almost never travels through spoken language first. It travels through the body. Through the specific, unrehearsed, involuntary way a woman inhabits physical space with someone she feels something for. And because most men were never taught to read that language because nobody handed them a translation guide, they spend entire relationships worth of moments missing signals that were never subtle. The hug is one of the loudest signals of all. Not because it's sexual, not because it's dramatic, but because the body's behavior during a hug, the duration, the pressure, the positioning, the aftermath is almost entirely governed by the nervous system rather than conscious decision making. She cannot completely control what her body does when it's close to someone it's drawn to, which means the hug tells the truth even when everything else is carefully managed. Today, we learn to read that truth. Why the hug is the most honest physical communication there is. Before we decode the specific types, you need to understand why hugs carry so much reliable information. Most social behavior is performed to some degree. Smiles can be polite. Laughter can be a social lubricant. Conversation can be managed. But physical closeness, particularly the sustained full body closeness, a genuine embrace is much harder to fake convincingly. The nervous system regulates physical behavior in ways that bypass conscious control. How tightly she holds, how long she stays, whether her body softens or stays slightly rigid, whether she keeps distance in the lower half of her body or eliminates it, whether her hands are flat and managed or grip with genuine intention. All of these micro behaviors are running on instinct and emotion, not social calculation, which is why reading them accurately gives you something genuinely rare. Access to what she actually feels rather than what she's chosen to present. The hug is the body's honest report. And honest reports are worth learning to read. The duration sign, when she holds on longer than the moment required, social hugs have a natural rhythm. They arrive, they last approximately 2 to 3 seconds, and they release both people, returning to comfortable social distance with minimal disruption to the ongoing interaction. When she holds on past that rhythm, when the natural release point comes and goes, and she stays, something is being communicated that the moment itself didn't require. She is extending contact because something in her doesn't want to lose it yet. Not because she made a conscious decision to signal attraction, but because the body that is drawn to someone experiences genuine reluctance to create distance from them, and that reluctance expresses itself as duration. Count the seconds if you can, without making it obvious. 2 to 3. Social, neutral, friendly. 4 to 6. Warmth and genuine affection. 7 or more. Something specific is happening, and it is almost certainly not indifference. But duration alone isn't the whole picture. What happens during the duration matters equally. Does she settle into it? Does her body relax and become heavier, more real, or does it stay slightly alert? Relaxation during extended duration is the body saying, I am exactly where I want to be. Right now, that is not something she decides. That is something she cannot help. The full body press, what it means when she eliminates distance. There are hugs where both people keep their lower bodies at a slight angle The upper bodies make contact while the feet and hips remain comfortably separated. This is the classic friendly hug. It maintains the social contract of closeness while preserving physical distance in the areas most associated with intimacy. And then there are hugs where she brings her whole self forward, where the distance isn't managed, where her body comes entirely into yours rather than staying partially outside it. This is significant, not because it's necessarily intentional, often it isn't, but because the elimination of that lower body distance requires something from the nervous system that neutral social interaction almost never produces: the complete suspension of physical self-protection. When a woman brings her full body into an embrace with someone her nervous system has already decided that person is safe, more than safe wanted, because the body does not eliminate its own protective distance from people it feels nothing for. It simply doesn't. The distance is automatic unless something overrides it. What overrides it is attraction. Specifically, the kind of attraction that operates beneath the level of social management and expresses itself through physical behavior before the mind catches up. Where her hands go the most. Specific sign in the entire hug. This deserves its own section because hand placement during a hug is one of the most information-dense signals available. There is a version where her hands rest on your back, open, flat, slightly passive, present, but not committed. This is the polite version. It completes the shape of an embrace without deeply investing in it. And then there is everything else. When her hands grip, when the fingers close, rather than lying flat, her body is holding rather than it's touching. And holding is emotionally distinct from touching in a way that matters. Holding says, I don't want to let go. Touching says, I am fulfilling the requirements of a hug. Where on your back, her hands are also tell you something. High on the shoulders or upper back. Warm, friendly, present. Lower on the mid or lower back. Closer, more personal, reflecting a different quality of closeness. And if her hands move during the hug, if they shift, if they briefly press more firmly before. But releasing her body is communicating something her voice hasn't found the words for yet. Pay attention to the hands. They are rarely lying. The head placement where she rests tells you everything most people don't think about where a woman places her head during a hug. But it is one of the most telling elements of the entire interaction. A neutral, friendly hug involves heads that stay relatively upright or turn to the side, maintaining distance even in proximity, ensuring that faces stay, but separate even while bodies are briefly close. When she tucks her head into your neck or shoulder, when she turns her face toward you rather than away, something shifts. Because that positioning requires a choice her body makes about where it feels most natural to land. And natural landing towards someone is the nervous system's quiet acknowledgement that being near that person feels like the right place to be. If her head rests, if it settles rather than merely arriving, that is the version. Wait, that carries the most weight. A head that settles is a body that is temporarily releasing the vigilance it normally maintains. Releasing vigilance is releasing guard. And releasing guard with someone is one of the most intimate things the nervous system can do. 6. The inhale, what it means when she breathes you in this one, is the most overlooked signal in this entire video, which is a shame because it might be the most honest one. When she briefly, almost imperceptibly breathes in during the hug, when she takes in your scent as a deliberate or semi-deliberate act, something remarkable is happening. The olfactory system, the part of the brain that processes smell, has a more direct connection to the emotional brain than any other sense. Smell bypasses the rational mind almost entirely and lands directly in the part of the brain that processes desire, memory, and attachment. When she inhales near you, her nervous system is doing something ancient and instinctive. It is taking in the chemical information about you, processing it, deciding something based on it. And here is what makes it a reliable sign. People do not typically inhale near individuals who don't attract them. The impulse to take in another person's scent arises from something already present, some existing pull that the body wants to deepen through this most primal of sensory experiences. If you feel or notice her breathe in during a hug, however briefly, however quietly, you have just witnessed one of the most unfiltered expressions of animal attraction available between two people in a social setting. 7, the aftermath, what she does in the 5 seconds after the hug ends. We've talked about this before in other contexts, but it deserves full attention here because it completes the picture. The hug ends. She steps back. And in the 5 seconds that follow, her body delivers its final report on what just happened.
Does she make immediate eye contact?
Not the glancing, moving on eye contact of someone transitioning to the next moment, but eye contact that stays, that holds for a beat, that carries something in it. Does she touch herself where you just touched her? A hand to her own arm or the back of her neck in the moments after, not in a conscious gesture, but in the unconscious way a body extends a contact it didn't want to end? Does the conversation change quality afterward? Does something become slightly more open, slightly more real, slightly more there than it was before the hug? These aftermath signals are the nervous system's summary. They tell you whether the hug was processed as pleasant but ordinary, or whether it landed somewhere deeper and is still reverberating. The reverberation is what you're looking for. That is the sign above all signs. The body doesn't have the same defenses as the voice. Every version of the hug we talked about today, the duration, the full body presence, the hands that grip, the head that settles, the breath that takes you in, the aftermath that still carries the feeling, every single one of them is her nervous system giving you an honest answer to the question you were afraid to ask. She's not confusing you. She's not giving mixed signals. She's communicating in the language her body knows, the one that predates words and exists below the level where social management reaches. You now speak that language, which means the next time she holds on a beat too long, or tucks her head into your shoulder, or breathes in, but quietly while she's still closed, you don't have to wonder anymore. You already know. And knowing changes everything about what you do next. If this gave you something real, if you finally have language for moments you've been living but couldn't read, subscribe. Every week on this channel, we go into the real psychology of human attraction, the body language, the signals, the honest, unperformed expressions of what people feel before they're ready to say it out loud. You deserve to understand, but all of it.